everyone, it's Mom Steph right here and welcome once again to my YouTube channel. If you are new to my channel, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell down below so you will be updated to my future tutorials. So for this video, we are going to talk about the nature of the roots of a quadratic equation, and you will also see how to solve quadratic equations using the quadratic formula and saan makikita ang ating discriminant sa ating quadratic formula. So the goal of this tutorial is for you to solve quadratic equations using the quadratic formula and for you to characterize the roots of a quadratic equation using the discriminant. So to start, let's have this first example, which is to describe the roots of negative 4x squared equals 8x minus 3. So pag sinabi nating describe the roots of this quadratic equation, may isip agad natin that we need to know the roots of this quadratic equation para magawa nating ma-describe ang mga roots na to. So the first thing we do for us to use the quadratic formula is we need to express this quadratic equation in its standard form. So the standard form of this quadratic equation is negative 4x squared minus 8x plus 3 equals 0. So nilipat lang natin to the other side of the equation these terms, and this side becomes 0. And then the next step is to determine the coefficients a, b, and c. So based sa ating standard form, the value of coefficient A is negative 4, the value of coefficient B is negative 8, and the value of coefficient C is positive 3. So after we've identified these three coefficients, we will then use our quadratic formula and substitute these coefficients to our formula. But before we do that, tingnan muna natin ang expression na ito. This expression is called the discriminant. So ano ba ang ibig sabihin ng discriminant at kung bakit ito importante in telling the nature of the roots of a quadratic equation? So the value of the discriminant, which is given by this expression, determines the nature of the roots of the quadratic equation. Pag sinabi nating nature of the roots, may mga kailangan tayong tandaan. Una, if b squared minus 4ac is equal to 0, or ang value ng ating discriminant ay equal to 0, then we can say that the roots of our quadratic equation are real numbers. Ibig sabihin, pwedeng positive at negative numbers, equal, so ibig sabihin din ng equal, magkapareho sila, or iisa lang ang number na to, and rational. So rational numbers, these are numbers that can be expressed into fraction form, and pwede rin naman siyang decimal as long as it is terminating and repeating. Pangalawa naman is if your discriminant is greater than 0, or ibig sabihin, pag positive ang value na nakuha natin. So pag positive ang value ng discriminant na nakuha natin, may dalawang bagay rin tayong kailangang tandaan. Una, pag ito ay positive at perfect square. Kapag nangyari yon, yung roots natin are real, not equal or hindi magkapareho, and rational. Pag ang ating discriminant ay positive naman pero hindi perfect square, then our roots are real, not equal or hindi magkapareho, at irrational. Pag sinabing irrational, these are numbers that we cannot express into fraction form. Usually, these numbers are decimals that are non-terminating at non-repeating. Ang pang-apat na kondisyon naman is if our discriminant is less than 0 or in short, a negative value. Pag nangyari yun, we can say that the roots of our quadratic equation are not real or ang sinasabi nating imaginary numbers. So as we continue our solution, we will take note of the value of this expression or yung value na nasa loob ng ating radical sign. Kaya to continue our solution, we will substitute these values to our quadratic formula and the resulting equation will be this one. So we have negative of negative 8 plus or minus square root of negative 8 squared minus 4 times negative 4 times 3 all over 2 times negative 4. To simplify, so we have positive 8 plus or minus square root of 64 plus 48. So ito na yung resulta ng portion na to. And then all over negative 8. So we have x equals 8 plus or minus square root of 112. Galing yan sa 64 plus 48 all over negative 8. So let's take note of 112. 112 is a positive number. So meron na tayong value ng ating b square minus 4ac. So balikan natin yung conditions ng nature of the roots. So ang 112 ay positive number. Ang tanong, is it a perfect square or not a perfect square? Ang sagot dyan, hindi perfect square ang 112. Kaya naman, kahit hindi natin ipagpatuloy ang ating solution, masasabi natin na ang nature of the roots ng ating quadratic equation are real, not equal, and irrational. Pero, para mapatunayan natin na tama ang sinasabi ng discriminant, we will continue our solution. So we have 8 plus or minus square root of 16 times 7. Since hindi perfect square ang 112, ang factors nito ay 16 times 7. At yung 16 naman ay isang perfect square. Kaya, pwede natin siyang kuhanan ng square root. So, the resulting equation will be this one. X equals 8 plus or minus 4 square root of 7. So, napalabas natin yung 16. Kasi square root ng 16 ay 4. Tapos, mananatili si 7 sa loob. So, to simplify this further, we will get the GCF of 8 and 4. So, ang common factors niyan ay 4. Kaya, we factored out 4. And then, inside this grouping symbol, we are left with 2 plus or minus square root of 7 all over 8. Kaya naman, if we divide 4 divided by negative 8, the result will be negative 1/2 and multiplied to this expression inside the parenthesis. Therefore, the resulting equation is negative 2 plus or minus square root of 7 all over 2. Ibig sabihin, we have two values here. Una, yung negative value of 2 plus square root of 7 all over 2 at yung pangalawa ay ang negative value ng 2 minus square root of 7 all over 2. So looking at this number, we cannot simplify this further. Kaya gamit ang ating calculator, ang value nito ay negative 2.322875656 and so on. Ibig sabihin nito, this is an irrational number. And the value of the second root is positive 0.322875655 and so on. Now, this result verifies kung ano yung sinasabi ng discriminant about sa nature ng ating roots. Therefore, we can now say that the roots of our quadratic equation are real, unequal, and irrational. Our next example is to determine the nature of the roots of the quadratic equation x squared minus 6x plus 9 equals 0. So, ang ating given na quadratic equation is already in standard form. Therefore, all we need to do is determine the coefficients, which are a equal to 1, b equal to negative 6, c equal to positive 9, and substitute these values to our quadratic formula. So the result is negative of negative 6 plus or minus square root of negative 6 squared minus 4 times 1 times 9 all over 2 times 1. The result of this is 6 plus or minus square root of 36 minus 36 all over 2. And to simplify further, we have 6 plus or minus square root of 0 all over 2. Now observe that the value of our discriminant is equal to 0. And yung sabi doon sa condition ng nature of the roots, if our discriminant is 0, then the roots are real, equal, meaning iisa lang, and rational. So to verify this, we will continue our solution. Since 0 na ang side na to, we are now left with only 6 over 2. And 6 over 2 is also equal to 3. Kaya going back to the conditions, masasabi nating tama ang sinasabi ng ating discriminant. Kaya naman, kahit hindi natin ipagpatuloy ang ating solution, as long as alam natin kung ano ang value ng ating discriminant and ibabase natin dito sa conditions na to, malalaman na natin kung ano ang nature ng roots of our quadratic equation. Kaya naman ngayon, gamitin natin ang ating discriminant to determine the nature of the roots of the following quadratic equations. So number 1, we have 2x squared minus 3x plus 4 equals 0. So for our solution, we get the values of the coefficients. So meron tayong a equal to 2, b equal to negative 3, and c equal to 4. And using our discriminant, we will substitute these values. Therefore, our discriminant is equal to negative 3 squared minus 4 times 2 times 4. And negative 3 squared is equal to 9, and this is equal to negative 32. So we have 9 minus 32, so this means that the value of our discriminant is negative 23. So going back to our conditions, this falls sa ika-4 na condition, which is kapag ang ating discriminant ay negative value. So if our discriminant is a negative number, then we can say that the roots of this quadratic equation are not real. Kaya naman, based here, we can conclude that, therefore, the roots of 2x squared minus 3x plus 4 equals 0 are not real. So as you can see, without actually solving for the roots, gamitin lang natin ang expression na to of our discriminant, we can already tell the nature of the roots of our quadratic equation. Now for number 2, we have 2x squared plus 4 equals negative 6x, and we are to describe the nature of its roots. Pero ang una muna natin gagawin is to express this quadratic equation into standard form. Kaya naman, ang standard form niyan ay 2x squared plus 6x plus 4 equals 0. And so, the coefficients are a equals 2, b equals 6, and c equals 4. So using our discriminant, we substitute these values, and our discriminant is equal to 6 squared minus 4 times 2 times 4. And that is equal to 36 minus 32. Ibig sabihin, ang value ng ating discriminant ay positive 4. At ang positive 4 ay isang perfect square. Kaya naman, going back to our conditions, this falls under the second condition na positive ang ating discriminant, and since it is a perfect square, we can say that the roots of our quadratic equation are real, not equal, meaning magkaiba, and rational. So to conclude, we can say that, therefore, the roots of 2x squared plus 4 equals negative 6x are real, not equal, and rational. Now, try to determine on your own the nature of the roots of the given quadratic equation. So, determine the nature of the roots of 9x squared minus 6x equals negative 9. Obviously, this quadratic equation is not yet in standard form. Kaya, yung una mong gagawin ay you need to express this quadratic equation into standard form. So are you done? Is the value of your discriminant equal to negative 288? If that's so, we then refer to the conditions given earlier. So based on these conditions, this falls under the fourth condition, which is, if our discriminant is negative, then the roots of our quadratic equation are not real. Kaya naman, ang ating conclusion, therefore, the roots of 9x squared minus 6x equals negative 9 are not real. And that's the end of my tutorial. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell down below, and share this video para sa iba na pwede pang matulungan nito. Thank you and God bless!